to another episode of MJ's Progress Not Perfection. Today's guest is Latasha. Latasha has Latasha's killing it. She did 18 months and she got out, and now she's got dove headfirst into the program, and she's going to get into all her story and from where she was to where she's at. You know, she's doing amazing things. You know, she's a late bloomer when it comes to when she got into drugs and alcohol, but it doesn't matter when you get involved, because when you dive in like she dove in, you end up where she ended up. So enjoy the
Welcome to
episode.
the show, Latasha. I appreciate you
Thank
taking
you.
some time to talk to me. And congratulations, you just had 2 years clean and sober, right?
Yes, I did.
That's awesome. Is this the most time you've ever had?
Yes, actually is.
That's
It is.
congrats. I know that feeling when you start hitting those milestones of like, holy shit, I've never gone this long. Like that's always
Right.
like such a good. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 32.
32. Okay, so when did you start your journey into drugs and alcohol?
A couple years ago, I want to say probably 2013. I
Okay,
started
so
with marijuana, then went to cocaine, then went to crack, and I tried meth also. Did pills, opiates.
So wait, you were like a late bloomer then. You didn't really get into like anything till your 20s?
Yeah.
So like your teens, you were like nothing really, or
No,
like
I was drinking during my teens and smoking cigarettes.
okay. So like you were just like a regular high school kid then, like going to class and drinking with your friends on the weekends.
Yeah.
Nothing like too crazy, not like losing control kind of shit.
No.
No, but that comes later. So
Yeah, it did. It got
so
it
now
really
so
bad.
now like now you would be like 22 years old, 20 like early 20s. What
Yeah.
I was 22 when I converted from being a heavy drinker to a pill user, which
Right.
lasted for 10 years.
Yeah.
So like what happened for you at that age where you're like I need to be an alcoholic? No one ever says that,
Um,
but what started like what was going on that you started like drinking more and using all of a sudden?
um, I just wanted to hang out with the crowd and be a part with everybody, and just be
So
in the crowd.
they're just part of the peoples that you were with. They would just like they were going off the rails, and you kind of went down with them.
Right. Then I
I see.
started going through things like being molested and um just traumatizing stuff, and it just led to harder drugs. Like it got real worse, and I never was the type of person to like talk about my problems. I always held it in and just turned to drugs and alcohol to make that disappear for a second, but it was always there when I got sober again. So
Yeah, yeah, because like well, being I'm sorry they had to go through that. Being molested and going through trauma is never an easy thing. I feel like we all have that trauma in common. Not
yeah,
that trauma, not specifically that trauma. There are a lot of people that have that trauma in common for what it's worth. But I mean, like in general, like I feel like we all have some kind of trauma.
yeah,
Whether and I consider even grief trauma. When
right,
you break it down. So like that's like where mine comes from. We all have like some kind of thing where it's like when you start looking back, you're like, oh shit, that's where it started.
right.
You know, and I'm sure whether like somebody you trusted.
Yeah, there was someone I trusted, and like in my addiction, I was like prostituting and selling myself for drugs and stuff like that. And one of the situations, my last situation, I was raped, kidnapped, and beaten. Um, yeah, so it was a couple people I knew and trusted. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I can't even imagine like like that's totally losing control. I'm sure were you high too, so you really had no control.
yeah, I was high.
Yeah, but not probably not even like from what I hear, like a lot of times you're just like straight drugged and like you were high because you didn't want to be high, you had to be high kind of thing. Like
Right.
it was
Mm,
forced upon you.
yeah.
So your drugs then were they based like what was your drug of choice? You had the money, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I got paid. What were you buying? Like what was your drug of choice like that you would be going to pick up?
Crack cocaine.
Correct. Okay.
Hmm.
And is that like that's where you lost your control the most?
Yeah, I was introduced to it when I had my son, and I liked it when I first tried it. And then it was like I could smoke it and then stop, But then it got worse. I was doing it every day, all day, doing anything and whatever I had to do to get it. Um, Selling myself. I was breaking entries and stealing, and you know,
Yeah. So how many arrests did you end up having before you got sober?
um, over 21.
21 arrests in
Yes.
like in 8 years.
Yeah.
How many
hmm
times did you do any stays during those 21 arrests, or were you just
Um,
posting each time?
the longest I stayed was 18 months. Before that, I would spend like a couple months. Then I got out. Then went back like 2 days later. So
Okay, so the 18 months. Now, I know, it can be easy to get shit in there, but I heard that on the women's side, it's harder to get shit than on the men's side. So, what
yeah,
was your experience like for that 18 months when you were still in addiction? Were you finding shit and using, or were you clean?
I was clean. They had ice and stuff in there, but by that time I was already like 6 months clean. So I done came that far, so it wasn't no need to turn back now. And I didn't want to experience like the reaction and you know
Yeah, you didn't want to have to go through, that all over again in jail.
yeah.
Now, when you got out of jail, you picked up again?
No, I stayed clean.
Okay, so
Um,
you've
I,
been clean since that 18-month stay.
yeah.
So that
Um,
picture you sent me,
yeah.
that
That was
before and after.
Yep.
Okay, so that's that when you went in there, right?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
tell me about, like, right now the picture is going to be popping up on the screen, right? So
hmm
right now the audience is seeing that before too.
Yeah.
That's a crazy before. What
hmm
was going on, when you got arrested that one time, if you don't.
In that picture, I
Yeah.
was up for like probably at least 2 months.
Yeah.
No
You
nap
were
or
you
nothing.
were you were awake for 2 months.
Yeah. I was
Uh,
getting high. I was chasing that next high, and that day I was trying to figure out how to get the next high or whatever, trying to figure out a way to make money. And that day I decided to stop at like bus stops, and because like I think the bus was running late that day, so I was like, if you got $5, I can go ahead and take you to your destination. So I had like 3 people seated in the car or whatever. And around that time that I got pulled over, I had just picked up a guy on Ashley Phosphate, and like it was a lot of traffic. It was probably like 7 o'clock that morning, and so I decided to get in the median and ride down the median and try to get in front of the line. And no, Charleston rolled past me and made a U-turn and got behind me and pulled me over. So I got pulled over for DUS,
Driving what?
driving on suspension.
Oh, you were driving it. So, what was this dude thinking in the back? Like some dude thinking he was getting a ride to work, and all of a sudden you start driving down the median.
Yeah, he just actually fired up a blunt. So he was like, "Oh snap," So he ended up getting let go. I told the police the situation. I told him he ain't got nothing to do with anything that's in the car.
Yeah.
So
So but he had his own blunt.
yeah,
He happened to be like, oh shit, okay, so you're
yeah,
being crazy. You don't mind if I smoke this blunt then?
yeah.
The
So,
bus
but
driver won't let me smoke.
that picture was actually I went through my mugshots on Charles County. I picked the worst mugshot. That wasn't the mugshot recently when I did my 18 months.
Okay, what's that mugshot from?
Um, that's from when I got put over in Charles County. But you might as well say that's how I looked when I got also locked up in
Oh
Bristol.
yeah.
So yeah,
Same difference. I see.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, because like
Same way.
2 months. That's I have a sponsee that he's gone 32 days. He said,
Yeah,
he was in the meth, and he said his record was 32 days straight, like no naps, no nothing, just like straight awake. And I was like, man, like how was the psychosis with that? Like he was like, I was in psychosis anyway, so it didn't matter how long I was awake for. And I was
right.
like, damn. So was there a program in, like, I know that, like, they bring meetings into jails, H&I, you know what I mean, hospitals, institutions,
Yeah.
they bring meetings in. Is that like your introduction?
Well, we didn't really get a chance to get the meetings. We had church a couple of times, and then the COVID hit. So and they took that away. So it was like I didn't really get introduced to like meetings and really
12
introduced
steps.
to like recovery until I got out. I just knew I wanted to be sober and didn't want to use anymore.
Yeah.
But
So,
I ended up getting 5 years suspended to drug court. So I do drug court 3 days a week, and I also have a sponsor, Sherry. I'm working my steps, and I'm on step 8 and stuff like that. So
that's
yeah, I
awesome.
didn't really get introduced to. I started drug court.
That's cool. I know. You don't mind me asking, do you go to AA or NA or
I go to
CNA?
all.
You go to all of them. Which one are you doing the steps on? Are you doing it through the big book or?
The big book.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I used to go to all kinds of meetings too. Like it didn't matter what kind of A it was, I was gonna go.
Yeah.
Like I even sat in for a marijuana anonymous meeting one time.
Yeah, they need an Amazon Anonymous too. So
Yeah, yeah. That
yeah,
would that would be a different. That would be just like Zon A or something
yeah,
like that. Because they're already in
yeah,
AA, so you
yeah.
can't do it.
Right.
So step 8. That's what. So, oh, you're coming up on the men's.
Yeah.
I just did the dots. I just connect. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
How was your? I always ask, how was your 4th step then?
My fault. It was emotional, and like to look back and see how messed up I was, messed up of a person I was. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's a
got through
good
it though.
thing.
Yeah,
No,
it is.
the emotional part's a good thing, though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, if you weren't getting emotional about it, that means you wouldn't care about it, which means you're not putting any effort into it.
Yeah, when I was high, I didn't
Yeah.
have no emotions, didn't care about nobody. No who feelings I hurt, didn't care about none of that. But to be sober and actually see that it took a big weight off my shoulders.
Oh, I'm sure. Now, and you said you got a kid. How many kids do you have? Just one?
I have one
Okay.
biological.
What's that?
I have one biological.
Okay, and you have other like stepkids?
Yeah, 3 step
Okay.
kids. Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry. Were you married? Are you engaged or
I'm engaged.
engaged? Congrats.
Thank
And
you.
how long you guys been together?
We've been together for about 6 months. So
Now,
yeah, she's a big supporter. That's one of the pictures I sent you.
yeah, is she
Yeah.
in the program? Is she in the program too,
She's
or?
sober. She's very supportive. She's gonna start coming to meetings with me, and
So she's like, just like a normie who doesn't drink, and that's why, like, you mean by sober by that, or she stopped drinking a while ago?
she stopped. She's an occasional drinker, but she doesn't,
Yeah,
because the
around
kids
you
and stuff
out of
like that.
respect. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely.
I'm always curious with relationships, you know what I mean? Because, like, my wife and I were both sober now, but, she drank and I used. Not together, we met kind of after the fact,
Right.
So, like, I'm always curious, like, how supportive it is. That's awesome. So, you guys got
Yeah.
4 around the house then.
Yeah. Well,
That's
my
awesome.
son, he's actually in Maryland with my mom. Cause when I was in addiction, the first time he got taken, he was taken by DSS. Luckily, my brother ended up getting him, and then the only way I could have get my son back is if I moved to Maryland with my mom. So I moved to Maryland with my mom, and I begged her to let me come back to South Carolina and end up doing the same thing over. So he ended up going back with her. I just like when I came back down here, it just got. I started doing drugs around him, and it just
Yeah.
got real worse.
So wait, are you from Maryland? Are you from South Carolina? Are you from Virginia?
I'm
I'm
from
trying to.
Norfolk. I'm from Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay, is that where you did most of your using?
No, I did most of. I've been here since '99, so I did all my using here.
Oh, in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I got you now. Now I'm caught up. I wasn't sure if you're down Norfolk or where you were. I talk to people all over the
Yeah.
world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm always confused, or not confused, but playing catch up,
You're
as they
right.
say.
It's okay.
All right, so now when you went back down to South Carolina, now you said you had time before in prison. Each time you were in jail, were you staying clean? Those other times when you did like
Each
months
time
at a
I went to
time?
jail, I stayed clean. Well, one time that I went to jail, I tried ice for the first time, and it had me lit. Like I didn't like it, because my preference was crack. But that was the only. I tried drugs one time in jail. I was too paranoid, like COs coming back and forth, and I didn't
Yeah.
feel like keep looking over my back. So.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Like I've heard even people say, like actually a guy that was into crack too back in the 80s and 90s. He said every time he went into jail, he was always clean because he wouldn't be able to enjoy the high in jail. He would
Right.
he was like, it wouldn't have been fun for me, so I
Yeah.
just waited all the time. I was like, okay, I can get that.
Yeah.
What was like, was there a time at all where you like knew that like you were an addict, like while you were in it? I
was
knew I
in
was an
denial.
addict. You were in denial?
Yeah, I was in denial. And so like the 18 months I spent in jail, I had time to, sit and reflect on like everything, I done put my son through and myself and my family. So I realized, I was powerless and, I had no control.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would, because that's a quick progression, you know what I mean, or regression. It seems like it went downhill pretty fast for you.
Right.
Like for it to go like, you know, did you look a lot different from when like you started to when you got really into it?
Yeah.
So you look
I,
like you look like you do now before, and then you
hmm
look like you did
I actually look
during.
better. I
Well,
look better.
I mean, we can all say that we were younger, so
Yeah.
it's easy to say that, younger and before drugs and alcohol really took us, so it's a lot easier to
Right.
say that. So don't feel bad about that. So, okay, so yeah, it went because that's so crazy because usually it is the opposite, not the opposite, but like, like for me and a lot of people I talked to, it was like teenage years, early teens, like adolescence. So like we're growing into this body of
Right.
what we're about to get into. So it hopefully can only get better
Right.
because, but I guess you find drugs when you find drugs and you find your way out when you find your way out.
Yeah.
That's why, everybody's story is different.
Right.
So, what was like the time like when you realized when you were out of jail, right? Now you're like
hmm
free. Did you realize like, okay, I definitely don't want to do drugs again? Because like it's always still like when you first get out, it's available again. Now you're on your own again. There's no one watching you.
Right.
What before you got into meetings and finding a sponsor in drug court,
hmm
or was it just the threat of drug court that kept you clean in the beginning?
It was just the fact that like I kept leaving my son, and he's asking about me, and I didn't like the way I looked and felt, and I just didn't like the feeling of being high no more. You
Okay.
know.
Had you been introduced to the program at all while you were in addiction? Like
No.
any other times, like in jail or anything, where you were sent for probation for anything or
No.
meetings? Okay. I wasn't sure because you were driving with suspended license. Why was it suspended?
Because multiple tickets. Unpaid tickets, unpaid fines.
While
Yeah.
you were
I
while
rather
you were in
get drugs.
addiction? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I rather get the drugs. The
That's a good
fines.
guess.
hmm
Now, when did you meet your girlfriend, your fiance?
I met her in March. Um,
Doing the math. How quick after did you leave? Did you meet her?
After I left
Jail.
jail. I got out in January.
Okay, so you met her a couple months after then.
hmm Yeah.
Okay.
When I got back down here and I got in the Oxford house, yeah, that's when I met her.
Okay, so you were in a sober living at the time when you got out, or a halfway house?
Yes.
Oh,
hmm
okay.
I'm still in there. I'm still in Oxford.
Oh, okay. How much time you got in there?
I've been here, yeah, since March. So,
How long do you have to be there for?
it depends on how the judge feel. If she feels like I'm ready to be on my own.
Are you seeing the judge anytime soon to talk about it?
But it's pretty cool. I love the support here, and you know the women get together and talk. Good
Yeah,
support system.
they take you to meetings and stuff from there too.
Yeah, we go to meetings together also.
That's good. Yeah, it's always like fun to go to meetings with a group of people that you already know. I was always going with my rehab or going with my sober living people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When we went to rehab or went to meetings outside of the rehabs or whatever. And then I got back to Pennsylvania and then I was like, I got to go to this meeting and I'm going by myself. I got to walk in there by
Right.
myself. I'm not walking in with a whole group of people, like from rehab
Right.
where I can kind of blend in. they're gonna watch me walk in, and it was like nerve-wracking the first time.
Yeah.
But then it was like everything else, you know. You walk in, you say, "Hey, my name's JD, I'm an alcoholic," and then it's like, "Hey," and then it was all fine. It was just that first time, it was like, "Oh, this is weird. This is a little, this is different."
Yeah, that's how I felt in the beginning. But now I walk in, and it's like they call my name and greeted me and like with open arms and stuff. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of love.
Yeah, it can be a really supportive place when it's done right. You know what I mean? Like, when you and the actual, like, when you're buying into the program, you know what I mean? Like, when you're not trying to relate out, you're trying to relate in, it makes it a much better experience for you. You know, because you want to be there. You don't need to be there. Well, you probably need to be there, but, you know, you more want to be there than need to be there. Like, you'd be going
you
to
walking on your own, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Are you required to go to a certain amount of meetings every week?
I'm with Oxford. I'm required to go to 3 meetings, and with drug court, I'm required to go to 6. So
you do at least 6. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that keeps you busy for sure. When did you meet your sponsor?
Most definitely. I met her. I got in Oxford in March. I want to say probably like I went to a meeting. Probably like 2 weeks after. I want to say, I'm not too sure, but it was very quick, cause she shared a meeting, and I was like, you know, I like her, you know, she has what I want, so you know, I made her my sponsor, and she's great. She's very good. She calls me out of my BS, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she remind you of you? Did she like have some kind of similar qualities that like kind of reminded you of you?
Yeah. I am my sponsor. Yeah.
It always makes it a lot better to try to relate to them when you feel like you can understand them on like a different kind of level, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
And what's the relationship you have with your peer counselor?
It's Asa and Christy. They work at the drug court. They're very supportive. I go to meetings with them on Thursdays, you know, and they just talk to me and encourage me and motivate me, you know, and just let me know that I'm not alone. And you know,
yeah, peer counseling's not used enough. Like I talk about it lately because like I didn't know what peer counselor was until recently. Yeah. And I feel like that's a shame because it can be so helpful to people. I mean, it's basically like having a sponsor.
Yeah.
You know, right? Is that how it is? They're kind of like sponsors or mentors, right? Because like they were you, right?
They are also sponsors. Yep. Christy's my sponsor. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, they're sponsors.
So, and then that's just a pure coincidence then, because you just heard your sponsor speak, you know, and then you asked her to be your sponsor. Did you know that she was connected to your peer counselor?
I didn't know until later on.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's a small
Asa's
world.
also with Oxford, so it's pretty cool how everything just fell together. Like it's all a circle.
Yeah, because that makes a big difference when you feel like you can have that kind of connection, you know what I mean, with somebody.
Yeah.
You know, because you feel like you can say something and not going to be judged for it, you know, like they're going to understand, you know, because like, and well, South Carolina, it's just filled with a bunch of small towns, I feel like. So, like, everybody's going to know each other.
Yeah, you know?
What part you at?
I'm in North Charleston.
North Charleston? Okay, I have friends in Charleston, and because I've always wanted to go down there because I love Bill Murray, and I love Bill Murray's stomping grounds. He's got a house there. He's got some restaurants. He's got, you know, that baseball team, that whatever, the River Dogs or whatever, Muck Dogs or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so I've always wanted to go down there to see if I can like bump into him by accident. Like,
it can happen.
Yeah, that's a nice thing about Charleston. I hear he's like all over the place. So, but that's awesome. though. I'm glad. Now? So, do you have any meetings today? You're gonna hit on a Sunday?
Yes. I'm picking up my 2-year chip tonight.
Nice.
Houses and my sponsor and my peer counselor is gonna show up. My fiance, so they're gonna come out and support. And, you know.
That's awesome. That's got to be a good feeling then. Like I know it is.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I think as long as the longest I could have stopped using it, because I used to be on probation, and like the longest I'll stop is like a week. So because I know I got a drug test coming up, so I'll stop like a week ahead so I can take my drug test, and right after that I'll go back out. So it's a really good feeling to be clean this long.
Yeah, I was gonna. That's what I meant earlier when I was asking about like the times off for probation. So you were just like stopping a week early every time you had probation.
Yeah.
Like, were you on probation a lot? I mean, with that many, how many charges again did you have? 21 different arrests?
Yeah. The charge before I got to Dorchester County, it was a break and entry. So I had spent a couple of months in there, and then I ended up getting probation, 3 years probation. Then I messed up again with Dorchester County, so they ended up terminating it so I can start drug court.
Okay, so now when you went in that couple months for the B&E, and you got out, like, and you were going to do probation, you were clean for a couple months.
Yeah, I was clean for a couple months.
So
no,
what happened?
Actually, that's when I had did the ice.
Yeah, but that was only one time though. But you were basically clean though for 2 months. You weren't ready to quit yet. You were just looking forward to getting out.
No, I wasn't ready to quit.
You were looking forward to getting out.
Now, but I was ready to get out and get high.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense. Okay. I'm so glad that you're at where you're at now. Like, sometimes it takes what it takes, and if it takes a year and a half stay, it takes a year and a half stay. I mean, how was that year and a half besides kicking? Like, you know, how was it for you besides like having to kick and get clean?
It was okay. I mean,
okay,
like
so
just to stay in jail.
Yeah, like because I've heard some were good, and I've heard some like people say, yeah, it wasn't that bad, and I've heard some going, it was bad. You know,
it was pretty easy. I mean, we had tablets, and I was also a dorm cleaner, so I wasn't in my cell like all the time. So
yeah, you found one of those jobs that got you.
But I know everything happens for a reason. You know, I needed to sit because I was reckless. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good thing you did. Good thing you found that. You know, good thing you figured like, you know what, I'm done. You know, like this isn't working. You were like 30 at the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, I remember being 31 and being like, what am I doing? Like, you know. Yeah. I feel like that's a popular age, like 30, 31, where we're like, you start reevaluating your 20s, and you're like, I can't have my 30s look like this.
Yeah.
So
like down Walking Dead.
Yeah, like I couldn't, like, you know, I was exhausted. I was a functioning addict. I was going to work every day, but I was also constantly obsessing, and that obsession in your mind that you have, that will exhaust you in general. You know, with your mind going constantly about the drug, where that's all you're thinking about, that's an exhausting place it can take you.
Yeah, it is.
Like, where you're just mentally beaten, you know? So that's how I felt. I was done. Like, I was waving my white flag. When I got into rehab, I set myself, you know, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Because I am beat to shit. Someone tell me how to fix myself, because I'm not doing it right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know? I finally admitted that, like, I needed help because, like, I could not do it on my own anymore. This is not working. So, you know.
It's real tiring. Like, it's tiring. It gets old.
Yeah, and so, but, you know, recovery hasn't gotten old for me yet. I enjoy it every single day. You know, waking up not in pain, no more withdrawals, none of that. Like, it's been a really good feeling. You know, what do you think the best...
about where I'm getting the next high from?
Yeah, what do you think, like, the best thing that you've gotten back in sobriety that you had before you started the drugs, like, in your 20s? Like, you know, for yourself. Not even, like, your kid, not like, anything for yourself, like, where, like, you could appreciate yourself or something like that.
My peace, my self-care, and, like, just my train of thought, motivation.
Yeah, okay, so you didn't have any, like, your thoughts were gone, like, you didn't...
Most definitely, yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you were, like, were you basically being trafficked? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, because I talked to a girl recently where, you know, she was being trafficked. And where, like, they took care of her. They gave her a roof and everything. But then, like, you know, they would get her hired in the morning. And then she would have to come back with money at night or else she couldn't come back.
Yeah. I did that for a little while, and I got away. I just, I wanted to be my own boss. So I started doing my own thing, and getting numbers and like making times, to where me and the other person to meet up.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
have you always been lesbian then? And that was just straight business?
Yeah, straight business. Yeah.
You're like, listen, don't get me no feelings with me.
Yeah.
Now,
no, definitely.
did that have play any part in like your story at all when it came to like, drugs and alcohol at all, or no?
What's that?
Like, was your sexual like being lesbian? Like, because I've talked to people that were like gay bashed and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like that.
Did the molestation and rape anything happen before I turned lesbian?
You were lesbian before that, right?
Yeah, before all that happened.
But
yeah.
Were you targeted because you were a lesbian? Do you think that like people knew you were a lesbian? Like, oh well, we'll show her what like what a guy's like then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you knew them.
Right.
So they knew you. Like they.
Yeah, like when I used to be on like the Macon, it's another street where all the prostitutes and stuff be at, and like I was the most picked up female, even though I was dressed like a man, so it was like weird. But
who knows how that works? I don't know either.
Yeah.
I've never been on the other side of that, so I couldn't tell you what their mind's like. I only speak to what my mind works and.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm glad like you're finding peace with that shit. Like I'm sure it made it to your fourth step. Resentments. And people. We can't control how people are. We can't control what they do. And everyone has their own kind of demon they're fighting and shit. So it's better just to accept the past that we can't change that shit and move the fuck on.
Yeah,
So,
I learned from it.
Yeah, I'm so happy I got a chance to talk to you and learn more about you. Thank you again for doing this. I appreciate it.
It's an honor.
I'm gonna I'll let you. It'll probably be out later this week or something like that. I got a bunch lined up. You know what I mean? But you'll be seeing them all pop up now. We're friends on Facebook. I do one every day for the whole entire.
All right.
Well, every month, every day in September, I'm doing a brand new story because it's recovery month. So, and then in October, I'll go back to one a week probably or two a week, depending on how many I have backlogged. But I always let you know, usually like 10 o'clock the night before, like, hey, I just picked yours. You're going up next, and so I'll shoot you a message. So, again,
I appreciate it, man.
Have a good day. Thank you so much.
You too.
All right,
thank you.
again. See you.
Thank you. Bye.